Well, guys, it's just a great day in the house of the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am so super excited to welcome the Food Sanity #1 best-selling author, Dr. David Friedman. I just can't say enough. I've been diving into his book, and it just really helps you with any kind of confusion that you have had about what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. I mean, he is amazing. He is the Lifetime television morning show host, health expert, and syndicated radio host. He's the bomb, you guys. He has been on ABC, CBS, NBC, E, Discovery, Health, Fox, Fit TV, the Food Network, Discovery Channel, and more. He has spent the past 15 years interviewing hundreds of health advocates, scientists, doctors, and New York Times bestselling authors. He is a doctor of naturopathy, clinical nutritionist, and chiropractic neurologist. He is a board-certified alternative medical practitioner, board-certified in integrated medicine, and registered naturopathic diplomat. He received a postdoctorate certification from Harvard Medical School, and he is a former teacher of neurology and author of the college textbook, Understanding the Nervous System. Dr. Friedman is a contributing writer for many leading magazines, including U.S. News and World Report, Newsweek, Reader's Digest, Healthy Living, Art Magazine, and Women's Day. He has been a guest on over 100 syndicated radio and television shows. Friedman's list of clients have included many top celebrities like John Travolta, Jenny McCarthy, Jamie Lee Curtis, Val Kilmer, and Paul Newman. His goal has always been to share cutting-edge information that helps his audience reach optimal health. Welcome, Dr. David, to the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah, totally.
Exciting.
So how is it in your neck of the woods today?
Doing great. If it was any better, I'd be twins.
Oh, God, I love that. Well, I'm 55 alive, so it's always a good day here at the Mitchell household. And I am so super excited to dive into your book. I was reading your book, and one of the things that I'm going to start out with really caught my interest, and it got me thinking, why do pigs not sweat? Why do pigs not sweat?
Well, pigs have a very thick fat layer. And, you know, the old saying is you're sweating like a pig. That's a misnomer because pigs don't sweat. That's why they wallow in the mud, because they're always hot. They're not sweating, so they're trying to cool off. And that's important when it comes to eating them because that means the toxins aren't released. So in the book, I share how if a pig's in the wild, his fat could be so toxic that when a snake bites the pig, the snake's more likely to die than the pig. So you want to stay away from the outer border if you eat pork. I don't, but if you do, knowing that, you want to stay away from the hams, stay away from the bacon, and you want to go more to the internal, away from that fat level, which would be the center loin, the pork loin, the center, which is actually more leaner, and stay away from the outside. But if you're a ham lover and that's something that you love, then you want to bake it, and you want to do slices, and you want to get that fat to drip off. So stay away from the fat. That's where the toxins are.
Well, I found it interesting how you said that a snake would die from biting a pig.
Yes.
I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, well, when we don't sweat, are we loaded with toxins too on the outer layer?
We are, but luckily we have the mechanism that we do sweat. But yeah, if we don't sweat, definitely. That's why people go to saunas and jacuzzis. They want to sweat. They go to the hot room. They do the hot yoga because it's part of the detox. What does detox mean? Getting rid of the toxins. So pigs can't go to these hot yoga classes because they would sit there and blow up.
Well, and also equally, like you said, the sweat is going to remove the toxins, and we're all about sweat here. So
I figured you'd bring this topic up first. I'm like, she's going to talk about sweat.
Because it's so important to move daily, to get your juices flowing, to create a sweat. I tell people, just get out, get moving, create a sweat daily. And I think just it purifies your system, but it also helps to clear the mind.
Oh, it really does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely, and it helps the skin. People that don't sweat have less healthy skin. So, that's why if you look at pigs, they say, man, the pigs have lousy skin too. See, it's all catching up.
Well, I was just thinking it was a pretty good correlation having all those toxins underneath the skin.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad that if a snake would bite you, it'd die. So I was just like, whoa, that's a lot of toxins.
Definitely.
How important is it for us to detox then?
Well, detox is so overused. I mean, you can buy a tea that's detox. You can buy detox, I've seen clothing that's supposed to detox you. So it really is the definition of detox. But detox would basically detox your kidney, your liver, and so forth. But I think there's a point where you don't put new oil in your car unless you get rid of the old. So I think it's important to really get rid of the old. So you do want to detox occasionally that liver. You want to do like a milk thistle. You want to do some tea that's it's called a daily detox tea. I'll do that maybe 4 times a year. So I think that's important to kind of out with the old, in with the new.
Okay. So you do detox periodically throughout the year.
Correct.
But if your diet is super clean, you would still detox, but it's not going to be like, I think if you go into a detox and you're eating like crap, that you're going to feel like crap during the detox because you have all that stuff coming out. Like,
yeah, it's not necessarily food. See, a lot of people, that's what I'm sharing in my book is, a lot of people, I'm eating clean, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing these diet plans. Why am I not losing weight? Why am I not healthy? And what I show in my book is a big instigator is the obesogens, which are chemicals found inside your food, wrapped around your food, sometimes even the cookware you're cooking your food on. And these obesogens, they actually wreak havoc on your hormones. They actually increase fat cells. So a lot of people that are eating right and they're putting in these plastic containers that have BPA in the microwave, which is the worst thing to do. It creates extra fat cells. So I don't care what organic, great, low-calorie food you're putting in that container. If you're eating from the microwave, you're going to get fat, you're going to be unhealthy. So when you're talking about, eating right, it's tough to eat right. It's not necessarily that. There's something called phthalates, which is another obesogen. And again, obesogens cause weight gain. Obesogens, these phthalates can be in your shower curtain. Who would have thought your shower curtain could be making you fat? But you know what? You work out, you eat right, you go in the shower curtain, and when that hot water hits it, you're breathing these phthalates, and science proves that it increases fat cells, and it's been linked to cancer. So it's very unhealthy. So when you talk about, eating food, that's so important. But all these diets out there, they focus on one thing, food. In my book, I say food is one part of it. It's one wheel of the tricycle. The next one is obesogens. You got to avoid them. I show you how. I list all the different ones.
Okay.
And number 3 is deep restorative sleep. If you're not getting restorative sleep, you're going to be sick, you're going to get fatter, and you're going to actually increase your fat cells and stay hungry as well. So it's like a tricycle. You got to have 3 wheels, not one.
Now, why do you say that exercise can make you gain weight?
Well, what happens is when you exercise, you're actually lifting weights, you're carrying muscles, you need more protein, more fuel, more food. And they did studies, and they actually showed people that just ate right, and then they showed people that ate right the same amount but exercised, and the one that just worked on the diet alone lost weight. And interesting, on my radio show, I've interviewed pretty much all the leading health experts. Denise Austin, Donovan Green, who's Dr. Oz's personal trainer, Jay Cardiello. I mean, you name it. And my first question is this: what percentage for weight loss is exercise? What percentage is diet? And I'm curious because these guys are exercise gurus. I figure they're going to say, oh, it's exercise. 80% diet, 20% exercise. This is the case of all of them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you can't outrun your fork. It would take you 500 jumping jacks to burn off 100 calories. Well, one soda is 150 calories. What's easier, doing 500 jumping jacks or just saying, I'm not going to do that soda today? So it's hard to outrun your fork. And if you eat donuts, the best thing to eat is the whole. That's the center. There's 0 calories. So that's where you want to go for the donuts. Right in the center of the air.
Well, I heard that. Jack LaLanne, I mean, he's like the best thing about the donut as a whole.
Yes.
And Elaine said he used to call them sinkers. I was like, why? She's like, it was just basically sink to the bottom of your coffee. It was like, like a lead bomb. I actually created donuts that are healthy in honor of Elaine, because that's how they met. Jack and Elaine
That's
was
great.
over a chocolate donut. He was telling her, you should eat some vegetables and some fruits instead of that donut.
It's interesting. I talk about him in my book. I asked him, I got the honor of meeting him, and I asked him about, that he's in the juicing and he's into the juice tiger and he was the juice guy. And I said, let me ask you, all that stuff, the pulp and the stuff that's remaining, that's the good stuff. He goes,
Yeah.
oh, I know. I make muffins. I make soup. I make bread with it.
Okay.
I said, why don't you say that in your infomercials? He said, people want the one-stop shop. If I
Yeah.
start talking about a next step, they're not going to buy the juicer. So
Right.
it's funny how people think juicing is the answer. And in my book, I share, no, you're getting rid of all this great fiber. You need that. You've got to eat the real fruits, the real vegetables, and all that stuff you're throwing away, save it. You can actually make muffins with it. You can make soups with it. It's good stuff.
Well, I was reading that about Jack in your book, and I love Jack LaLanne. I mean, totally was amazing. And I wondered that myself because I knew that it was healthier for you to eat the whole apple versus juicing. So I'm glad to see that he did use the pulp, because it's just so much better to eat the whole apple with the fiber
Yeah.
and all the nutrients.
And it's interesting. I'll interview a lot of people lately, and it's just like, I sit back and hear all these experts that contradict the next one, and I just take mental notes. But a lot of them are saying get away from fruit because fruit has fructose, and that's spiking your blood sugar, and it's linked to diabetes. And I'm like, really? We should not eat any fruit? No, it has fructose. And, that's so not true because,
Right.
as you just mentioned, when you're eating an apple, apple's loaded with fructose sugar. But you know what? You've got the pectin, you've got the fiber, you've got the skin that actually buffers out the sugar. So by science showing us that we eat one apple a day, you have a 30% decreased risk of diabetes from an apple. Blueberries, they're loaded with sugar. 15 grams of sugar for 1 cup. That's a lot of sugar for blueberries. But blueberries show there's a 23% decrease in blood sugar when you eat, or 23% decreased risk of diabetes if you eat blueberries. Why? Because they have the fiber. So if you juice these things, then what? Now you're
Set up for it.
Now you're getting the spike in sugar.
Wow, that's so interesting. What blueberries are supposed to be good for your memory too.
I can't remember. I think I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're excellent. They have.
I take hyaluronic acid.
Right.
It tastes really good. It sort of tastes like blueberry juice, and probably I'm getting a little spike, I imagine. It's pretty sweet, but I could swear to you, my joints. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like being 55 and I still compete. It keeps my joints healthy. I can feel more lucid, like my thoughts are more clear. It's amazing. They use it for burn victims, but it's also supposed to be good for arthritis and healing. And
you look at people, by example. I have a patient who's in his 90s. He golfs, he drives there, he's sharp as a tack. And I always ask people that are healthy, I said, what's your secret? What do you think your secret is to your sharp mind and longevity at your age? And he told me for over half a century, he has literally eaten a bowl of blueberries every morning, without fail. And I'm like, wow. And there's science behind it. Science does show that it helps increase the microglial cells of the brain. It has anthocyanidins, which are great for the memory and the recourse and staying young, your longevity. So, that was his secret. And I says, anything else? He says, no, he totally gives blueberries the credit.
Oh, his wife was in trouble if she didn't stock the fridge. You gotta have his daily dose.
And, in my book, I studied people that live to be over 100 and, healthy. We're talking people that are 105, 110, 115 that have lived on the globe. And these people still hike. They still work out. They go to the beach and they have sex. No blue pills. They have sex over 100 years of age. And it's like, I want to find out their secret.
Right.
And interesting is their diet is primarily plant-based. They did a little bit of animal, not much, and very little red meat. So really, if you're looking at the spectrum, plant-based foods show the science behind it. There's always good stuff there. No one denies that. When you look at the animals, it's kind of like you have to look at the science. This shows bad. This shows good. But with fruit and vegetables, there's no bad. All of us agree that that's the key. So that should be the foundation of our diet, according to people that live to be over 100 and healthy.
Okay, so a lot of us are confused out there because almost daily a new diet comes out. But the big ones, like the paleo plan, the Atkins, I'm going to be a vegan, or I'm a vegetarian, or I'm eating, I don't know, the South Beach diet and the Fat Flush plan, my mentor, Ann Louise Gittleman, all these plans. How can people find their way through this and be sane through this food sanity? Like, how can they get the correct plan? What is your take?
Well, what people, if they ask me what diet works, everyone wants to lose weight. And of course, like you just said, there's so many confusion. You got Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, and eating for your blood type, your body type, your skin type. I mean, it's like, and what I tell them is this: all of these diets work. If you get on these diets and you follow it, you will lose weight. The problem is keeping it off. The problem is looking at.
Okay, I love that. That's a good one. Yes.
95% in a year will gain it back and then some. And the reason all these conflicting diets work is, guess what they have in common? Ready? They change your routine. They show you how to eat different foods, different ways, at different times. And when you do that, you're going to change your blood sugar, you're going to alter your metabolism, and you will lose weight. The problem is keeping it off. So in Food Sanity, what I do is I looked at the word diet for the true word that it is. It comes from the Greek word diatia, which means way of living. And that's the
lifestyle.
Lifestyle, the way of living. It's not about just food. Food is one thing, and as I mentioned, that's one wheel. There's
wheel.
One is avoiding the obesogens, which I believe is the cause of obesity. There's so much science behind it.
I'll definitely be remembering that.
Yeah, and then getting deep restorative sleep. And if you look at the science when you talk about sleep, the American Journal of Epidemiology found that females get about 6.3 hours of sleep per night, and men only get 5.6. Studies show if you sleep less than 7, you're more prone to obesity. Because what happens is it's a perfect storm of hormones. It increases your ghrelin. I call it ghrelin the felon because it makes you want to go in the kitchen and eat. It increases your appetite. It decreases your leptin, which is that voice of reason. You've had enough pie, you should stop. This is what you've had enough pie, I won't let you. And then it increases cortisol, which is your belly fat, that's your stress hormone. So not sleeping is the perfect storm for weight gain. So I don't care how much food and what kind of diet you have, or if you're exercising, or if you're avoiding obesogens, you need a deep restorative sleep. If you want to lose, you have to snooze.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And we're doing something in the Sweat Project that I have online, an online course where it's a belly buster protocol, and one of the things is sleep spray. We use just some natural ingredients to help to enhance the sleep. Right. And and fish oil and greens, and getting that sleep is huge, because your cortisol increases for every hour, I believe, that you slept under 6. I think it was 30%. That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot. An example that I use that makes sense: if you drive your car home from work, you put it in the garage, but don't turn it off. Leave it in park, but leave your car on. And 13 hours later, after you've slept and eaten, watched TV, now you're going to go back to your car that next morning. The engine's going to be hot, and you're going to look at the gas tank, and you're going to see some of that. It's going to be less gas, because you know why? It burned fuel at night. The engine was on. So you've actually burned fuel at night when it should have been shut off. And it's the same with us. If we don't shut off in that deep restorative sleep, our engine stays on, and it increases our hunger. And if you ever study for tests and you stayed up late, you're starving, right? You're like just starving when you have finals. It's because you literally have an increase in ghrelin. It makes you hungry. It makes you crave sweets and carbs. And you always crave what? Pizza and sweets and ice cream.
And also the brain.
Spinach that you crave.
The brain burns calories. So if you're thinking really hard, you're actually, it would shock you how many calories you could burn when you're studying and taking an exam. So I think it's kind of dual. You're hungry for 2 reasons.
Yeah, but if you get deep restorative sleep, it actually increases your memory as well. So I actually taught a memory. Okay,
so you're not working as hard.
Staying up all night studying, it's worse. You should study a little bit and sleep, and you'll retain it. It actually puts that in
more clear.
Yeah.
What are 3 keys to weight loss?
Yeah. Well, the big three is, like I mentioned, you want to, the one is the white foods, and I'll share that, is if it's white, keep it out of sight. It's that simple. That's my diet, folks. If it's white, keep it out of sight. And what that means is by white foods, it's the refined, the processed foods like milk, you got sugar, salt, flour, corn, things made out of those. And of course, with white, doesn't mean that you have to stay away from broccoli. Those are okay, and garlic and bananas. We're talking about just the ones I mentioned. And when people hear that, they go, what's left to eat? You just named everything. You can eat everything you love. You just want to get rid of this man-made, filtered crap, this white foods, and go with the natural versions. For example, let's look at salt. Everybody says salt's bad for you, right? Increases blood pressure, causes bloating. Salt is great for you, folks. We're 70% salt water. How can it be bad for us if that's what we're made out of? Without salt, we die.
What if we overdo the salt, though? Doesn't that harden the arteries if you overdo salt?
If you overdo the wrong kind of salt, it's the worst thing you could do. You want to stay away from the white processed salt. But if you want to salt your food, you go with what's called black Hawaiian volcanic salt. It's loaded with 80 minerals that we need. It makes us healthy. And you know what it does? It satiates our cells. It makes us full so we don't eat as much. If
so black Hawaiian, you said?
Let's go black. Or you can go with the Redmond, Utah. It's ancient salt. And, of course, pink Himalayan salt's better. You just want to avoid the white process. And it's the same with sugar. You know, everyone says sweets are bad, but you know what? We were designed for the sweet tooth. And, you know, instincts. Did God make a mistake? Are we not supposed to enjoy things that taste sweet to our tongue? You just want to avoid the white process. You want to go with, like, the loheng, which is the monk fruit, xylitol from the birch tree, pure stevia. These are options that are sweet. If you want a liquid, go with manuka honey. That's fine because it's loaded with minerals. The key is bombard your cell with sweetness, but have the minerals that make us full and make us healthy. Same with flour. White processed flour is no good, but you can do almond flour, cashew flour. I had buckwheat flour pancakes for breakfast. They're delicious. And it doesn't spike your blood sugar. Diabetics can take that as well. So in other words, there's good parts of all of those. You don't have to avoid milk, just avoid the cow's milk, but you got almond milk, you got cashew milk, hemp milk. So in today's shopping, it's so easy to avoid those white foods that will make you fat, that do make you crave food, that are
because they're empty.
They're empty, and your body craves them. Do you know who knows they're empty? Let's talk back about salt. Movie theaters know that salt is empty and it makes you crave more food. So they salt the popcorn. So you're coming back for the jujubes and the Diet Coke or the regular soda. And the same thing with fast food restaurants. They love salting the food because it makes you crave it. So salt is bad, but the good kind of salt, science proves, actually helps your heart, helps you live longer, helps you stay healthier and thinner.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I'm in a total agreement with you. I call it the great whites. And white bread is, you know, twice dead. So I just, and you know, I had a little experiment myself this year when I was finished with competing. I was watching everyone cheat, and it had been forever since I like dove in and had anything like cheated or had anything like that. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna have one day. So I had the day. I had things I would never eat. Brownies. I had Fritos with cheese sauce. I mean, my clients would probably be like in shock because I'm, you know, I never have them. So anyway, long story short, I realized when it was getting towards evening, I'm like, you know, you could just keep eating this. I mean, because it's not satisfying. You're never going to be full. It's never going to fill you up. Right. This food is completely empty. Completely. Yeah. Excuse me.
And a lot of it is loaded, and a lot of it has sugar in there, high fructose corn syrup, which makes you crave it even more. That stimulates the brain to an addiction property. And they've actually shown that it's very similar to cocaine. It makes you really crave. So, you know, again, these are just chemicals that we got to stay away from, these processed and empty calories and these chemicals. If we just eat clean, you know, everyone's talking about eating like a caveman and eating like a gorilla, which is just vegetables. And it's like, forget that, folks. You know what? You want to eat like your great grandparents. Look at pictures from the early 1900s and the 1800s. They were thin, they were healthy. And it's funny, everyone blames their genes on why they can't fit into their genes. And it's not true. 3% were overweight in the early 1900s. Today, it's 70%. How can you blame your great-grandma when she was thin? on your weight problem. The problem is we're eating stuff now and being subjected to chemicals that they weren't. So eat like your great-grandparents. Well, and you know what? They had better lifestyle. They're not to their phones all day, and they slept better. So, that's why I say that's my next book going to be the great-grandparent diet.
I like it. And when you're eating real food, this is the thing, is, when I ate all that empty food, that was my experiment. I was like, wow, you're never satisfied. You could just keep going through this bag and want more. But when you're eating real food, like if I'm eating broccoli, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I got to have another bag. I've got to have another box of broccoli. I got to have another, I don't know, another whole chicken breast or whatever, because it's going to satisfy you when you're eating real natural foods.
True. Oh yeah. It's not empty calories.
Right.
And what's funny is your stomach will be full, but it doesn't tell your brain it's full. So you keep eating and it expands the stomach. If you eat broccoli, it tells you you're full and it stops. It doesn't expand. You never have to unbuckle your top buckle, men, when you're eating spinach or broccoli and you're full. But you will if you eat a bunch of junk and you're diving into pizza and brownies and, a bunch of beer. Your body keeps drinking it and keeps eating it.
So what is your take on alcohol?
Yeah, interesting. When you're looking at alcohol, and I did research it, there's a lot of studies out, especially wine, that shows its health benefits. And I think that red wine's much better because it's got the resveratrol, it's got the good proanthocyanidins, which is good for the heart and so forth. But I think that there's a limit now. There's been studies showing that too much, which has actually been a lot lower than we thought, can affect the brain. It can shrink the brain. And there was a 30-year study that showed mild to moderate drinking every single day does shrink the brain. So I got to thinking, because I used to be a 1 to 2 glass a day wine drinker, and that really made me think it was a really good study. And it was the only study that actually showed 3 decades worth. And I figured if something little is good for us, or something in excess drinks that we lose our mind, right? We get drunk driving and we can't, we can't touch our, if a lot of that is bad for us, what about a little bit in longer extension? So I've actually cut back a little bit on the wine. I do about 2 to 3 per week instead of the 1 to 2 per day because of this. So I think alcohol is good. Now, if you're dealing with the hard liquor, that has a big link to these food intolerances and the gut microbe problem that we have, the microbiomes. If you put hard liquor scotch on a burned arm, what happens? A sunburned arm, it's going to burn, right? And it's going to dry out. What do you think happens when you do these shots? It goes right to your gut and your stomach. So doing a lot of this hard liquor is definitely bad for the microbiomes, and it's been linked to food intolerance. It's one of those irritants, and it can create leaky gut syndrome. So wine is better. Beer is better. The hard stuff, that's straight, these shots, I mean, it burns your throat. What do you think it's doing to these delicate little friendly bugs down in the colon?
Wow. I have a lot of clients that want to know the alcohol question, so I get it from you. So,
they say moderation used to be, 1 to 2 a day. I think every single day, 365 days a year of alcohol is too much for the liver. I think you need to take some time away from that. Every single day of anything is a little bit too much. So in other words, I think that, the 2 to 3, or if you want to do every other day is fine. Click, this thing just came on there. But again, we tend to over bombard it. People doing, 3, 4 glasses a day, or on the weekends, they really do the 6 to, 7 or 8 of them at a time. So I think that if you base yourself in a week's time, 3 glasses is fine and healthy.
Now, earlier you were talking about beef. You were talking about beef, and you were saying to limit beef. Though the paleo people are telling us eat like a caveman, eat beef. Why should we limit beef?
Well, it's interesting. I spent a whole section looking at the paleo diet and saying, all right, if we're supposed to eat like our ancestors, what do they really eat? And I dug in and I pulled out forensic evidence that really debunks this belief that cavemen were these big, strong, gargantuan, beasts that put the mammoth on their shoulder and went back to camp. Actually, in reality, cavemen were 5 feet tall. They were 171 pounds, which means they're clinically obese. So I ask you a question. If you hand a spear to a 5 feet, 171-pound oompa, let's call him what he is. He's an oompa. And you say, all right, I want you to go out and hunt a lion, tiger, and bear. Oh, my. Do you think he had the speed, the endurance, and the ability to go out and hunt and capture these beasts? No. The reason they had weapons is for one reason, for protection. They weren't the hunters, they were the hunted. They carried them for protection. Their diet was primarily plant-based. That's based on science by fossils of 3.5 million years ago. They found between the teeth vegetables, they found wheat, they actually found gluten 3.5 years ago. So we were primarily plant-based, but if you look at our instincts, if they were able to catch an animal, it was good for 5 hours and then it would rot. So it was good for one meal. So common sense, if they spent all day catching one meal because they didn't have refrigeration, wouldn't it make more sense that they would go legumes, they would do fruits, vegetables, they would do grains because they could carry that with them, then try to hunt. So in retrospect, so the paleo, I said, well, so where did this come from? Why do we think these cavemen with these big, strong, in the movies, the cattle industry created that to sell more beef. They said, let's make a superhero, the big, strong caveman that men want to be like and women would like to have as their husbands or boyfriends. So it was all a marketing ploy. They were not. So when you look at the foods, I looked at the beef and the chicken and the dairy in every section of my book, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I stood in the middle. I had no favorites. I really wanted to find it, as you see. And even if I don't like a specific area, I show you how to get it properly. But with beef, it has a sugar molecule called NEU5GC. And this was proven about 4 years ago, and it's an inflammatory sugar that we don't have. When we eat it, our body attacks it. It creates inflammation. It's been linked to cancer, and it actually has been linked to coronary heart disease because we have a similar sugar called NEU5AC. So when our body attacks the sugar from the beef, it accidentally attacks the one on our arteries. So that's why eating a lot of beef has been linked to heart disease, and that's why colon cancer has been linked to eating beef, because these cancers that they found, these polyps, have NEU5GC. This is the molecule that's in beef. Now, fish don't have this molecule. Eat them. Chicken doesn't have this molecule. Eat them. They're good for us. But when I looked at beef, the science was unbelievable how bad beef was. Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, the American
Is
Cancer.
that the same for bison?
Yeah, bison's better, does not have that sugar. So if you want to eat the red meat, bison is actually the way to go. So that is, and you know what? Bison's not pumped with hormones. It's not pumped with the antibiotics. So you're much safer doing a bison burger than you would be a hamburger. And that's what I show in the book, is if you want meat, here's how to do it. And if you want to eat beef, of course, go USDA certified. You want to go away from the hormones, the antibiotics, but you're still going to get that sugar, that molecule. So you don't want to do a lot of it. And that's scientifically proven. So here's what's interesting. We knew that smoking caused cancer, but there was a time we didn't know why. And then scientists discovered, it's nicotine that's causing it. We know that beef has been linked to a higher incidence of colon cancer.
Yeah.
We don't know why. It's this NEU5GC. It's this molecule that's in that meat that we have a hard time digesting. It creates inflammation. So that's kind of the science, and common sense is, we don't have the teeth that's designed to eat beef as much. We don't have the enzymes as I go through the book. And the number one reason that people get the Heimlich maneuver ready is a piece of beef has been lodged in the esophagus. Not chicken, not fish, not vegetables, beef, because it doesn't break down. Our biology wasn't designed for it. So if you do beef, do a little less, eat it in moderation. Don't do the paleo every single day, 80% beef. Some of these people doing all this beef. It's not healthy. You may get thinner, but let's see how you look in 10 years and see if you even make it 10 years.
So in your book, I know you talk about the fish and how we've been told not to eat fish because of the toxic mercury. And, that we're going to debunk the myth. I mean, why is mercury in fish not a concern?
Yeah, see, I'm a fish lover, so I eat fish, and I kept hearing every expert say, you got to watch out the mercury and the pollution and and everybody's repeating this. And I said, where's the science? I want to see these people that have been died because they ate fish or they can't use their mind. There's got to be some research. So I dug in really deep, and guess what? I found the opposite. People that eat more fish are healthier. And I looked at cultures. I do 2 to 3 times a week fish. I said, all right, what about cultures that eat it every day, 3 to 4 times a day? And I researched them. They're the epitome of good health. We're talking tuna, supposed to be the high in mercury. And I said, all right, what's the next thing we hear? Don't eat fish if you're pregnant, right? Because of the mercury. I said, all right, let's research that. And I looked at cultures that eat fish, primarily tuna, which is high in the mercury. Pregnant females that eat that fish have smarter kids. They end up with higher IQs. So how is it messing their brain up, which mercury supposedly does, and they have higher IQs? So I dug really deep, and I found out that if fish have more selenium than mercury, it cancels out any negative effect of mercury. Selenium protects the brain, protects the cells. It protects you from cancer. So in my book, I actually have 18 of the most commonly eaten fish. All of them, except for one, has more selenium than mercury, and it's the mako shark.
Okay.
So you can't say, folks, if you're at a restaurant and see on the menu, mako shark is on the menu, don't eat it. But if you see other wild-caught fish, it's not an issue. The highest mercury level of fish that they say to watch out for is 0.6 parts per million. Let me give you an idea what that means. That's 1 penny in $20,000. That's how little bit of mercury that is. Fillings, on the other hand, have 7 parts per million.
I had toxic mercury from my fillings.
Why is that not on the FDA side? Of course, they warn you about fish, so here it comes down to I follow the money. Why are fish the redheaded stepchild of food? Because A is they get caught wild, there's no antibiotics, there's no growth hormones, there's no colorings, there's no money. It's no money involved in fish. The beef industry, the cow, the milk industry is where it's the chicken industry. So the government wants you eating these foods because 80% of all antibiotics sold in America is injected and fed to farm animals, primarily cattle. So there's big, big money. Let's say that again. Of all the antibiotics sold in America, 80% is to animals, not fish. So I follow the money. So fish are great. Of course, you don't want to go farm raised because that's taking you away from nature. And farm raised salmon, just so you know, is gray because they don't eat krill. And krill is why they turn that nice orange color that we used to. So what do is they feed them dye, these colored pellets, and it dyes their meat pink. So you want to you're eating this dye, you're eating PCBs.
So when we eat out at a restaurant, it's probably farm raised, I would imagine.
90% of salmon is farm raised. But in the book, I share how to find out if it is or not. And one quick tip, ready? Salmon, as you know, if you look at a marathon swimmer, right? They're pretty lean. They don't have any fat. Salmon are marathon swimmers. They don't have any fat. They're the leanest, strongest fish, but not if they're farm raised. They're loaded with fat. Okay. So when you look at a piece of salmon and you see fat striations between the meat, it's farm raised. I don't care if it says wild caught. Labels are deceiving. Don't believe it. Use your eyes. If you see salmon that's pure meat that's dark, it's wild caught. So let your eyes be the judge. Don't trust that they're saying wild caught because a Consumer Report did a study. It was like 56% lied on the labels. They said that they're wild caught when they were actually farm raised. So you can't trust labels.
Oh, yeah. You really, marketing is just so many things about labels that you can't trust, especially the average consumer might not know how to dive into the label. Do you talk about that at all in your book?
Yeah, I talk about looking at labels and some of the deceit and also some of the things like simple things on the label. Like if you want to eat organic and you're not sure, you look at the label, the list called the PLU code, price lookup code. And if it has a 9 on it that begins with a 9, it's organic. So 9 is fine. 8 is GMO. So 8 isn't great, but 9 is fine. That's the same. So you can play detective work. We talked about obesogens. One of the biggest is bisphenol A, is BPA. It's in plastic. So all these water containers that people are drinking from, it's an obesogen and it's been linked to cancer. So here's a little thing. You look on the bottom, and if you see a 3 or 7, stay away. It has BPA. If you see a 1, 2, or 5, it's safe to drink from. So we can play detective by following the numbers, and I explain that in my book. It's not that hard. We just can't be so trusting that everything we eat is safe and it's been approved and it's been, looked through the FDA and it gets a thumbs approval. It's not. We have to play our own detective.
Now, where did you say the numbers are? Like if we're looking for that?
Yeah. So on the plastic. Usually on the bottom, it'll be the recycle code. It's got the little arrow around there, and it'll be in the center. And if you see a 3 or 7, don't drink, don't take it. And please don't ever put that in your car in the heat because then I was
telling the ladies that they found a lot of that in breast cancer from the heat, like from the plastics getting heated and seeping into the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one other place people don't realize that BPA is in these thermal paper receipts, like your ATM receipt and your airline tickets and movie tickets. And when you go to the grocery store and you reach for that receipt, you're contaminating yourself with these chemicals. So I always say, please put it in the bag and have them put it in the bag. And if you do touch it, wash your hands, because you're contaminating yourself. And those are actually worse than the plastics, because it's called free BPA, meaning it's not enlarged in the plastic. You're touching, it's getting right into your skin, and you're touching your eyes, and you're touching your food. So you want to just play a little detective work and just know where these chemicals are and follow some of these numbers.
Now, moving on to dairy, which I do not include in my sweat plan, and I see that you're saying why we don't need it for calcium and protein. What is your take on milk?
Yeah, the big thing with milk, remember we said to follow the money, and milk is the biggest money maker. That's why we're told when you got to have milk if you want to be big and strong. And, as you know, there's big and strong people that don't drink milk. There's athletes and there's stuff. But if you look at a step further, it's like, well, forget athletes. Look at gorillas. They're pretty big and strong, aren't they? They don't drink milk. And elephants, the biggest, strongest animal on the planet, they don't drink milk. So how do they get so big and strong? So really kind of debunk that. But when I say get off the cow's milk to patients, they always say, well, how am I supposed to get calcium for strong bones? So we'll debunk that right now. The calcium that is in milk before it gets to your glass is pasteurized. That means it's heated to destroy the bacteria, and it does that well. It destroys the bacteria. But when you're heating that milk, you're also making a lot of that calcium insoluble, means it's not used by the body. So people say, well, what if I had unpasteurized milk? You can't get it, but let's just, for giggles, if you were to drink right from the cow, yes, there is usable calcium, but that milk is 90% calcium, 10% magnesium. So there's not enough magnesium for it to even get to the bones. Science shows that you need a 1-to-1, 50% for it to bond into the bones. Guess where you get the 50-50 calcium-magnesium ratio? From plants. The same place the gorillas get them, the same place the elephants get them, and the same place cows get their calcium from. Cows don't drink milk, calves do. So we as humans don't need to drink that. Where do we get perfect 50-50? Ready? Almonds, spinach, summer squash, sesame seeds, all give us a 50% ratio for strong bones. So right away, you don't need it. And then you look at protein. People say, whoa, don't we need milk for protein? The protein is called casein. So the protein in milk is designed by God to make that calf, 100-pound calf, turn into a 2,000-pound cow.
Right. That's enough right there for me.
You've heard the term fat cow? That's from casein. It's making them fat cow. So why would you want to drink this protein that's making them fat? It makes you fat. But casein is also used to make glue to hold together wood. Ever see that Elmer's glue cow logo? When we drink this glue-like...
Oh my gosh, I never correlated it.
Yeah. When we drink this glue-like substance, our body attacks it, produces histamines, and this cow's milk creates all types of stuff. We're talking bronchitis, asthma, sinus problems, been linked to cancer. It's been linked to increase your chance of diabetes. Science, proven. What I just said, it's in my book. So I can't stress enough, public enemy number one, there's no good whatsoever. And I looked for it. Every good thing about dairy was paid for by the American Dairy Association. All these great studies.
So dairy is public enemy number one?
Public enemy number one. You know how I say I always give you good options to get it. There's no good option unless you go with a milk alternative. And we have options. We have hemp milk. We have coconut milk. You've got almond milk. You've got all these great options that you can go for. And, cashew milk's great for any recipe.
Yeah. So I use almond, cashew, coconut, all of the different, for making recipes. You can
even yogurt. You can almond milk yogurt. You don't need to have cow's milk anymore.
Well, you can make ice cream out of coconut milk.
Ice cream. Oh yeah, and there's actually some you don't have to make and go to the store and they're there. So I think it's great because 5-10 years ago there was only soy milk, which is not something that I recommend.
Because of the soy, it's a high allergen.
Yeah.
And GMO usually.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
So, wow, there's just so much good information here. Why did you create your book, Food Sanity? What led you to do it, and why did you write it?
Well, I wrote it just because as a syndicated health and TV radio expert for 18 years, my goal was to bring people on that would help my audience get healthier. But that didn't happen. Instead, I was just confusing them because this expert contradicted the last guest, and it would leave my audience and me more confused. And like we've talked about, you got the eat for your body type and the paleo and the vegans, the opinions are different as night and day. I remember oatmeal used to lower blood sugar. Now the anti-grain people say, whoa, stay away because it spikes your blood sugar. Coffee used to be, it used to cause disease. It was the worst thing you can drink. Now it prevents disease. Eggs used to cause high cholesterol. Now we're told, no, there's actually an ingredient called lecithin that actually lowers your cholesterol. And then there's the butter. Used to be the worst thing in the world. It made you fat. Now people are putting butter in coffee to get them thin as a diet. It's the bulletproof. Wait a minute.
It's bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, I wrote Food Sanity to break through the culinary conundrum, to look at all the fads, the facts, the fiction, and answer the question, what are we supposed to be eating? And I do it in a way where I let the reader decide. It's not me preaching. I give you 3 things. It's science, unbiased. We make sure it's not paid for, because that means you can't have to cross it out. Instincts, trust your instincts. And then the last thing is the biology. Are we designed to eat that food? Our teeth, our colon, our enzymes. So when you combine these 3 things, science, instincts, and biology, you have a lie detector test if it's true or not. You don't have to rely on the media. You can figure it out yourself in every chapter. And when you figure it out, you own it, you embrace it, and it just makes sense. A lot of these other things, like I said, wait, this said this, that. Science changes every month. You can't trust science. You have to get in touch with your instincts, because science is going to change. Because next month, I bet butter's now bad for us again.
Well, right now I'm advocating it.
Right now, but next month, it was funny. But there's good ways to get better butter. But like I said, it's confusing. But if you tie into this system, you can figure it out and what to eat and what to drink.
So, so many diets out there. I mean, I studied hundreds of diet books at the Integrated School of Nutrition. So we had studying all these diet theories. But why, with all these diets, are so many Americans still obese?
Yeah. Again, it has to go back to the obesogens, because it can't be food, because there's so many great food products out there. There's a great, they'll deliver it to your house so they know it's pure and it's organic. But problem is you'll lose and then you gain it back, because what's happening is we're subjecting ourselves to the stuff we're cooking our food on, or the even stuff that we're, the spray, the fragrance spray has phthalates. It makes the room smell good, but it's making you fat. You're smelling, they don't use that. Use a natural citrus spray if you want the room to smell good. If it says fragrance on it, it's phthalates. So makeup, ladies, makeup could be cause of your weight concern because it has phthalates. So you want to be careful. So you want to look for makeup that says Cert Clean, which is certified clean, the emblem, or go to Environmental Working Group, EWG.com. And it's like 16,000 different products and makeup that are tested and shown if they're good for you or not. So imagine that you're eating right, you're exercising, and you're putting this makeup on that's actually an obesogen that's making you gain weight. Who would have thought of that?
Wow. Now, do you go over different obesogens in the book to avoid?
Actually, it's one of the hottest topics now. I'm being interviewed more about obesogens than I am food. And it's great because, I say it in there, food's not the issue. We have more diets, more weight plans, more books, more programs, more gyms on every street corner than we've ever had in our life, but we're bigger than we've ever been. Folks, don't try to figure out why. It is 100% the chemicals that you are subjecting yourself to. It is not the food. It's what's in the food, wrapped around the food, and what you're cooking your food on. These PFOs, they just did a study. It's this Harvard study. PLOS Medical Journal found that people that are more overweight have more of these PFOAs in their bloodstream, meaning they actually have more blood in their bloodstream than thin people. So they've proved that they actually increase our weight. Science shows that they add fat cells. We used to think that we were born with so many fat cells and that's how many we had in a lifetime. Obesogens increase the number of fat cells that we have. Who wants that? We're already battling our own fat cells. We don't want any more fat cells.
Yeah.
So in my book, I really delve into that, and it's the most mislooked topic because everybody's about food, and that's important. We need to eat right. But how come so many people that eat right a year later are back overweight again? It's because of these chemicals. You've got to avoid them. And there's so many. The average person is subjected to or get exposed to almost 100 obesogens per day, literally. They're everywhere. So you've got to really be taken in consideration on what these chemicals are and stay away from them. And I do share that in the book.
So my guess is you're an advocate of organic.
Yeah, organic is good. I like the USDA certified organic. If you see that, you know that it's been put through that, because pesticides are an obesogen. Pesticides are why we have so many food intolerances. Everybody's, I can't have this food. Don't blame the food. You could have it 10 years ago and now you can't, and you're blaming wheat now? You were fine eating it 10 years ago. Wheat didn't change in 10 years. What did change is these pesticides, chemicals. We're getting more and more in our system, and we're building up this less tolerance for them as the years go by. So what happens is when you have these pesticides, it creates leaky gut, it destroys our microbiomes, and it makes you food sensitive. So now you have these hard times eating foods that used to be. Don't blame food. Everybody says, stay away from wheat. Wheat's Satan and gluten's Satan. And in my book, I share so much research, credible research, showing gluten is good for us. We need it. We need wheat. Wheat helps fight cancer. It helps digestion. But we have a hard time digesting the gluten now, not because of wheat that has gluten. It's because our body is not able to digest and process it. Now, celiac disease
Is that because of the pesticides?
One of them is pesticide. It's pesticides in wheat, the Monsanto. That's destroying our gut. You know, your mom, my mom, and our grandparents were fine with wheat. Why all of a sudden we can't have wheat?
Shoot. I mean, geez, like butter, bread. I mean, wheat bread, and just
not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother lived to be like 94.
It's interesting, and I share some really. I just got to share just because no one talks about good. It's all doom and gloom. Just one. All right, this is from May of 2017. The British Medical Journal published research conducted by Harvard School of Public Health. They analyzed over 100,000 subjects for 25 years. That's the biggest study ever. Ready? They found participants with the highest intake of gluten-containing grains had significantly lower rates of heart disease than those with the lowest consumption of gluten. And I'll share one more. In October of 2015, the World Health Organization announced that daily consumption of whole grains containing gluten reduces colorectal cancer by 17%. It goes on. I have study after study after study. And, I know we love doom and gloom, but I will tell you, there's a percentage that need to stay off gluten. That's celiac. There's a percentage that are sensitive to it that you have to stay off because it's best for your interest, but you can reverse that. But the other 90%, gluten's fine. You don't have to be so afraid of it. You don't want to hear that. And I've been on these shows and they're like, what? And people right now, I'm off of it. And I get sick from it. You're right. It makes you feel bad. I'm agreeing with that. But it's not because of gluten. We've eaten gluten for 3.5 million years. We built up digestive ability. All of a sudden, we can't have gluten anymore. It's not gluten. It's not food. It's these chemicals that are making your body not process it properly. Don't blame the food. Don't blame the smoke. Don't blame the fire.
Well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, I have so enjoyed talking to you today. I'm going to have you back. You're just like a wealth of information, and you're so passionate about the topic. I could talk to you about this forever, and I hope that everyone out there has enjoyed listening to Dr. David. Where can they find your books?
They could go to foodsanity.com, and you have ability to order the book at all the venues. It's available wherever books are sold. But if you go to foodsanity.com, I couldn't fit in recipes. The book was too thick, so I had to put them in an ebook. So I've got a 92-page ebook that's free.
Oh, no way.
Foodsanity.com. It's the recipes that I couldn't include, and it's a great compilation. So this will break down all the foods and then how to eat. And we talk about the no-white diet. So I show that, and we talk a little bit about the obesogens in there. So you can download that.
That was my next question. I was going to ask if you had recipes.
Yeah, it was tough. I have a few of them in the book, but it's like, wow, it's like I really wanted to do some more. So I have over 30 recipes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that are healthy. They're great. Desserts, quench that sweet tooth. I hate people that say you got to stay away from all sweets. We have a sweet tooth for a reason. Just do the right kind of sweets. You can have sweets that are good for you, just to stay away from this empty calorie sweets.
I love that. And where can we watch you or catch you? Do you have a podcast?
Yeah, you can go. My radio show is toyourgoodhealthradio.com. and pretty much interview all the people that are going to confuse you like I've been. But, you know, I pick their brains. It's the best scientists we have. And
I love that.
I show you how to make sense there. And then just for basically all my previous videos and stuff, you can see at drdavidfriedman.com. And that's pretty much my blog post, articles, videos, and audios are all on that site. So toyougethealthradio.com is the radio site, and foodsanity.com will be a place to get the book.
Thank you so much for being a guiding light to health and nutrition for this generation. We just thank you so much for coming on the Sisterhood of Sweat.
It's been fun.